time to hammer.
Oh, I gotta really try hard.
Shut it down!
Somehow it's the best.
After the credits.
A YumChunks podcast.
YumChunks!
Welcome, one and all, to episode 43 of After the Credits, a YumChunks podcast. Welcome to an absolutely jam-packed end of summer episode, which we don't even know what we're calling yet, but here we are. I am Matt Chewy, one of your hosts for today. With me today, we have Vince Rizzo. How you doing, Vince?
I am excellent. Thank you for asking.
Great to hear. We have Sean Davis.
Hey.
That's good. That's good. And Ryan Davis. What's going on?
That wasn't
with
that good. I disagree.
Hey!
Okay, you're right. No, I'm just trying to be positive here. I'm sorry, Ryan's here too. We missed his enthusiastic. He's good. It's good, and we're glad he's here. We're glad everybody's here. Cool. So here we are. It's been, as of today's recording, it's been exactly a month since our last episode came out. We all got kind of busy there. I think trying to enjoy what was left of the summer. We all had lots of stuff going on. So I think today we're just it's gonna be kind of a catch-all. We're gonna talk about some movies that we've seen. We'll do some shorter, in-depth conversations than we normally do, but we'll try to cover everything. But it's a buffet of an episode today, I gotta say. So, before we get started on some of our bullet points, we'll open it up like we normally do with Tales from the Chunkfire. Somebody throw the nondescript powder on the fire. Someone do it. Who's gonna do it?
Oh my god, that was gunpowder.
Oh
no!
Oh, better stop recording. Okay. All right.
We're back.
We're back. We're here. We've been reincarnated. Let's get this going. Let's do a slightly quicker. What is this? This is like a speed dating chunk fire. It's a speed fire. Let's go around the circle a little bit quicker than last time, but let's share some things we've been up to. Who wants to start?
I want to start.
I'm ending this. So all right, Vince wants to start. What's going on with you, Vince?
Hey, I was in the hospital for a month.
Oh no.
What happened?
Well, that's pretty much what I've been up to. My son got really sick, and he got sick, and the doctor's like, "Oh, we know how to treat this. It'll be no problem." And then they were like, "What?" And they didn't quite understand how to treat him, so we were in there for like 3 more weeks, and it was a nightmare.
That's the last
But it
time
all
you'll
worked
trust
out.
me as your doctor.
I know, right?
Well, when you don't have great health insurance, you gotta turn to who you can.
When you're only paying for health insurance with pennies you find at the beach with a metal detector.
Oh man, let's do a quick update on that as well. Hey,
Wait,
I'm just
that's all
saying.
you have to say about the hospital? That's it?
We don't need to go into it. He's fine. He's walking somewhat. Let's just
Look, he's living, he's breathing,
Does he
it's
have
okay.
polio?
Look,
Does your son have polio?
metal detection is you're really
Look.
chomping at the bit to get to the subject.
That was all I want to say. Son in the hospital. When I had time, I was also metal detecting. But let's get into it.
Sorry,
I
son. I'm going to leave you alone in the hospital just for a couple days. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Hey, he was sedated. He didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, having had many hospital stays this year, I gotta say that is the best part of it.
The metal detecting?
The drugs they put you on. Especially if you have a nice TV in your room that's playing SpongeBob all day. That's a good, there are worse things. But anyway, update us on your metal detection tales. I cannot wait.
I know. So hold on to your britches there, good old Mr. Charles. Okay, I found 2 rings. 2 rings so far.
What kind of powers do they have?
Let that sink in.
You mean you hadn't found any rings up as of our last recording?
Well, rings are hard to find.
Okay,
Shut up.
Vince, here's the thing. In the group chat, you've sent us pictures of the stuff that you found, which is actually quite a bit, but for the listeners, it just sounds like the only thing that you found since you bought this metal detector are 2 rings.
No, okay, so I have almost 1,000 pennies. That's not a lot with the pennies. I get it, but I found about $50 in other quarters, dimes, nickels, stuff like that, and then I found a couple of objects that are silver, which is kind of cool.
So you found almost $10.
No, I found more than $10 there, friend.
But you found almost 1,000 pennies.
1,000 pennies is $10, but I found a bunch of quarters and dimes and nickels.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, just in quarters, I found $30. And then everything else. Dimes, you actually find a lot of dimes. You wouldn't think it, but I have. And I found a really cool watch, a Disney watch that's stainless steel, and it's pretty cool. It's from Japan.
Cool. Wait, what kind of Disney watch? What's on it?
It's got Tinkerbell.
That's cool.
Does it work?
Like, yes, it actually does.
Awesome.
So that was pretty cool. Oh, also, and this is just something I'm going to pose to all of you guys because I just found out about it today. Did you hear that Ewan McGregor's coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I've heard there's rumor that I didn't hear it confirmed, but that he might come back as in Disney Plus TV show.
No,
Disney
it is
Plus.
confirmed. He actually signed a thing.
I had heard it was confirmed that he was in talks.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I had never heard a confirmation that he had signed on and that it was for sure happening. So maybe it's somewhere in between.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard talks as well. But
look, if somebody is saying there's talks, obviously it's gone past the talks.
And also, what does talks mean? I don't like
Harry Styles was in talks to play Prince Eric in the new Little Mermaid movie, and then he just announced today that he passed on it. So
okay, but he's been Obi-Wan already. If he's already talking about it, he's gonna do it again. Come on.
I mean, you're probably right, in all honesty, but I think talks means like contract negotiations, like how much are we paying this person, and how many movies are we locking him down for, etc. I think that's kind of where you're, and things can still go wrong in that phase. So I don't like to get excited until someone officially announces this is a thing that's happening. So,
would people kind of say that like he was the best thing about the prequels?
I'd say his character was probably the best. He was. I don't know if there's a best thing about the prequels.
I mean,
there
that's
has to
the thing
be
is
something.
There are many worse things.
I don't even know if his character is the best. I think his performance.
Yeah, maybe that's. Yeah, I guess maybe.
I think he's written just as poorly as everyone else.
That's true.
But he himself, Ewan McGregor, is enjoyable on screen.
Not even Obi-Wan, just Ewan McGregor.
He's enjoyable in scenes that he had no right being enjoyable in, like when he was watching a robot lizard burn to death. He was enjoyable.
Another happy landing.
Civilized. Yes, excited though. Obi-Wan.
I don't think so. That was him using the Force.
Oh, that was good.
Oh man, if the Jedi's made that sound every time they use the Force.
So
I want to cut of this.
Let's make that dub.
Yeah, exactly.
Real quick.
Oh, you know what? Do that for the what is it? The battle at the end of episode 2.
With Dooku and Yoda.
Or no, Dooku and Yoda. That's the scene you gotta dub. Especially because it starts with all the rock throwing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that's our next YumChunks original.
We also need some farting preacher thrown in there.
Well, they did the farting in episode 1. That was pretty good.
That was good. Yes. It's not as good as the farting dub for The Matrix. If you haven't seen that, go look that up. That's pretty excellent.
I think my favorite thing that's come out of the prequels is they take Jake Lloyd's voice and put it in Darth Vader. That's the best thing that's happened.
That's another good fan video. Yeah. But it's all fan work on YouTube that's the best thing about the prequels. There's nothing that's actually in the prequels. Anyway, why are we talking about the prequels?
Wait. Plan.
When he's looking at like all the dead rebels, he's like, all my life. Which, if you think about it, is actually true. How he probably sees that all his life, Yeah. It's like it really hits
business
home.
As usual. Another day at the office.
But did Jake Lloyd know that line was going to remanate through the Star Wars universe? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Resonate.
I don't think anybody could have known who was involved in the prequels, the results and everything that was going to come of it. I don't think anybody could have known.
Also, I don't know what remanate means, but I like to imagine you meant to say marinate.
Yes, that's what I said. That's what I meant.
It's the concept of marinating and resonating.
Yeah, it's a new
yeah,
word.
I like it. It's a good word.
I was going to just let it go because it worked for me in a weird way I couldn't quantify, but you guys wanted to talk about it.
I'll tell you guys how to make up your words.
We're
have
inventing words here.
Yeah, I have.
You have showed us. Continue. I enjoy it. All right. What else you got, Vince? You got anything else for the Chunkfire?
Well. How the turntables.
You didn't invent that.
No, I didn't. Michael Scott did.
Big old phony.
That's it.
You're a phony.
That's all I got. Metal detecting. My son's still alive, and I heard some stuff about Star Wars.
Okay, cool. Good. Who's next over here? I think I'm cool.
topping the metal detecting chapters.
I know. I mean, that was what I was looking forward to. So it's all downhill from here for me.
Oh man, I didn't tell you guys about the couple of needles I found. Well, anyway, we'll talk about that next week.
Like sewing needles or hypodermic needles?
Nope, not the sewing kind.
Vince has
But-
diseases.
But bunch of quarters in that area too. So
It was worth the hepatitis for that
Worth it.
$1.25.
that's all I got for now. Hey,
Okay.
tune in next week. Okay, that's it.
All right, Ryan or Sean, who wants to jump in? Who wants to jump into the flames and dance in them? Dance in the flames with us.
We'll go.
With
I guess
us.
I'll go.
All right.
Sure. I'll jump in the flames
Vince
with
is
you.
currently in the flames, marinating.
Exactly. It's only me. You guys said us as a plural, but it's only me.
reminating.
Reminating.
Let me remanate with you, Vince.
I'm reminating in a nice marble glaze.
Ooh.
Ooh.
God. Not quite right on that either, but we'll
Vince, will you base me if I base you?
Ryan,
I don't know if I love
base
or
you.
hate this. I'm sitting right
we
on
all
that
knew exactly
fine line
where this conversation was going as soon as we hit record.
Yep.
into
Wait,
the
Ryan,
garbage.
are we back to where people are shipping us together?
Oh,
Ooh.
boy.
That
I
brings
can't
us
wait
back.
for that again. Oh, boy. Okay, well, anyway, here's what I've been up to, eh? Let's see. Well, I went to the Comicon, and boy, that was a fun time. Maybe we'll talk about that more. Sean, because Sean went too.
Oh my
We
gosh,
will
I
talk
did
about
do
that more.
And at the Comicon, I picked up book 5 of Red Rising series.
I did that as well.
Yeah, and it's called Dark Age, and we met Pierce Brown for the third or fourth time, and he signed it, and he told me how I inspired him to write the character of Darrow. He didn't actually say that, but in my head he does. And it's a fantastic book. I'm about halfway through, and it's just the best.
Wait, what is this book?
It's we've told you about this book before. It's in the Red Rising series. This is book 5. It's a story of. Well, I don't know. It's
You say you tell me about this, but you don't even know what the story's about?
Ryan, would you say the story reminates with you?
Yes.
it resonates with me.
Like some
I
sort
think
of
that's what I'm
marble
getting
glaze?
at here.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should check it out. It's by Pierce Brown. Anyone listening should check it out. But especially people who are listening and talking to us at the same time.
That's me.
It's on Audible, maybe. We'll see.
It is on Audible, and it's really
good.
good on Audible.
All
It's
right.
really good on Audible.
Does
I'll
Morgan
add it to
Freeman
my
do
queue.
it?
No, it's this Irish guy or Scottish guy, and he's
Yeah.
good.
Same person.
Well, his name is Red in Shawshank Redemption.
Oh.
Ooh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Okay, well, there's that. I actually played a video game. I haven't been playing video games recently, but this game was free on the Epic Game Store. And I've gotten many free games off that, but played very few of them. But this one was called Moonlighter. Sean, we actually played
that's
this
right.
game
at E3 2
Yeah.
years ago, right?
Yep, E3 2 years ago. And we were not inspired by it, as I recall. But it was free, and I played it, and now I like it. I don't know if that's because it was free, and it cost me only some hours of my life. But it was fun. It was basically just a dungeon crawler, right? You know. But when you get out of the dungeon, all that loot you gathered, you get to open a shop and sell it to customers. Yeah, I don't know.
That's fun.
That's-
I don't know.
Yeah.
It is kind of fun. I don't know why it's fun, but it kind of is because you get like the customers come in and they go, "Oh, I want some rocks," and you're like, "Oh, well, I got some rocks for you."
You got to be a little entrepreneur, man. You got to put your tie on. You got to start a
Yeah.
little You got to be a little businessman.
You get to be a little businessman. Vince, you would like this game because it's like imagine if you went a bunch of metal detecting and you came back with all your trinkets and then you get to sell them to people. People can buy quarters and dimes from you.
What?
Huh?
Wait,
There
do
you
you actually
go.
have a metal detector in this game?
No, you don't.
You have a sword. It's boring.
Well,
don't you,
yeah.
you're fighting monsters with a sword and
Yeah,
To cut the monsters open and get the treasure that's inside them.
Yep.
exactly.
That's where
I mean,
gold comes
that's
from.
how my metal detector works. It has a sharp blade on it.
You fight
Well, you
sea
So what you're
creatures.
saying is you just beat up people with your metal detector and take all their change.
Exactly. That's what I
So
do.
far, you got a watch and 2
And-
rings.
By a metal
You know-
detector, I just mean I have a knife.
Vince, I knew you were going to make this endeavor pay off all along.
Yeah.
I knew deep down in your side you were going to make it pay off. All right, Ryan, what else you got?
I saw Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
All right.
Actually, it's kind of because that was the Robert Rodriguez film, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was.
And
So
there's the Mexican, which is Brad Pitt.
Oh, it connected it all together. Well done. But that was freaking amazing. I actually want to see it again because I don't think I fully absorbed the whole of the film. But it was really good. I also watched the movie Crawl, which was also really fun. It was just a nice, good sort of horror suspense movie about a hurricane in Florida and crocodiles, or rather, I guess, alligators attacking people. There you go. But it was really good. It was nothing that'll blow your mind, but a good time at the movies. And also, I finished the show, Amazon show, The Boys. Really, 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 really good. Can't wait for the second season.
Cool.
And that are the things that I done seen.
That are them.
Ryan, thank you for
them.
coming down to my level with the way that you talk. I really appreciate it.
Well, I kind of ended on like a good note.
Well, we never do, so why start now?
Yeah.
We never start things on a good note either. Just none of this is good.
It's a lot of
I
bad
just
notes
like
in a row.
staying on bad
I don't know.
notes.
There's somewhere in the middle there.
All right.
Ah.
Sean,
All right, Sean.
bathe in the flames with us.
All right, let me marble something. Let me play marbles. I don't
Marble
know.
Madness.
Before we
Remember that
start,
game?
Vince, what's the difference between an alligator and a crocodile?
Well, alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush. I just watched The Waterboy a couple days ago. So, wait, do you really want me to answer
No,
that
I
question?
don't care
Okay,
at all.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I did a lot of the same things Ryan did, so I'll just echo some of that. But I also saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I also absolutely loved it. It's not my favorite Tarantino film, but it's actually high up there. I think it'll take some time to see where it kind of ranks, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I saw The Boys as well. Also really, really like that. Did not meet my expectations in terms of my expectations being low, and it didn't meet them because it went above them.
Got it.
And I also have been reading Dark Age. But I also knew things. Stuff that other people haven't done. I saw Midsommar. Anyone else see that?
Nope.
That was a movie.
Mm-mm.
It was a disturbing movie.
As I
I've
discussed
heard it
earlier before recording, I almost went to go see it, but then I decided to see Aladdin again. Because I make poor life choices.
Not
That one. That wasn't a
That
poor
wasn't
life
one.
choice.
You're just
but-
unrelated. You make poor life choices. Midsommar is a really great film. I do think it's a little bit long, but highly recommend. But also, it's very disturbing, and it's I don't know if it's scary, but it's disturbing. So that I've been playing this game. I also play video games.
Nuh-uh.
Ooh.
Yep. You got me, Sean. You got me. I've been playing this game called Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's on Switch. Part of the Fire Emblem franchise. And it was all the rage, and all the internet was saying what a good game this is and how you have to play it. And I did that. And it is. I enjoy it. It's like a dating simulator, but Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, kind of. Or
Now,
something.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I have played some of the Fire Emblem games, and I believe that is a tactical combat game.
Nope, wrong
Oh,
again.
okay. All right, well.
You give flowers to your students for them to like you. That is what Fire Emblem is. There's also
Ooh,
fishing, and you cook dinner for them.
No,
yes,
Colonel
it is a
Sanders,
tactical.
That's
You're
not
wrong.
how anything works.
Giving powers
Mama's
to my
right.
students for them to like me is my job.
Well,
That's
no,
what you do at school, at work, right?
That's
Joey?
what my work. That's what my job is.
And you also
That is
they
okay.
pledge allegiance to like different houses at your work, and like you're in charge of that house, and then you go and fight the other houses, right?
That's exactly what happens on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So there is a tactical strategy. That is actually the game. So, but the idea is that every month, at the end of the month, is a big battle. That's story-driven battle. But throughout the month, you train your students and you like teach them lessons. But then you also like interact with them and like, oh, you're feeling down in the dumps, huh, Johnny? Well, you shouldn't feel that way. You're gonna be a good sword fighter. and then he gets happy, and he's a better fighter that month because you made him happy.
Well, why would you ever tell Johnny that he's not a good sword fighter if he's going to be discouraged?
Because I don't know if you want to be an honest professor and like I'm not going to lie to this kid. He's going to die. Oh, also there's permadeath in this game, so if your students die, they're dead forever.
Oh no!
Yeah. So yeah, it's actually really good. It's really good writing, and all those elements, some weird way, just work. And so, anyways, that's been fun. And one final thing, I went back in time.
Oh.
Not again.
This time to the old Renaissance days. Or, no, the medieval days. Medieval times. I went to medieval times.
I was going to just ask if you went to medieval times.
I did. That was what happened.
Actually, I already knew that because I saw your Facebook post.
Yeah.
And anyway, tell us about that.
I went there, and not only did I go there, but I made people married.
I wanted to talk to you about that because when I got married,
it is your fault, Chewy.
Maeve and I forced you at gunpoint to get your officiant's license so that you could marry us.
Yes,
and I was wondering if this was a result of that.
It is. It has paid off. So my friend Jordan and Tara, they went to Comicon with us actually, Ryan and I. But also they're the filmmakers I made that movie with earlier in the year. They're friends of mine, and they were getting married, and they had this big plan to have a big wedding, and as people do. You guys know about weddings, right? Anyways.
We do.
But they're like, it's going to be expensive and all this stuff. So, hey, do you just want to go to medieval times on Monday and marry us, Sean? I'm like, what? And it was like 2 days before this was happening. So I'm like, I guess so. Like, yeah, you're ordained minister. So you could just marry us whenever. We'll go get the paperwork Monday morning, and then we'll meet and go to medieval times. I'm like, okay. So we did. We went to medieval times.
That's pretty awesome.
And then, they had bought kind of the VIP passes, and there was a group of us, 10 of us, and out there's a little garden kind of lobby, not even in a big fancy garden, just a little bench and some bushes. And they're like, well, all right, I guess we'll get married here. So we just walked over there, and I'm like, okay. And I just came up with something on the spot. I'm like, you guys love each other, and we're all here. And I married them right there at medieval times. And then we went inside and watched horses fight with people on them.
Wait, did they have to have people on them? Could it have just been horses fighting each other?
There were a lot of non-people horses that were dancing. There was a lot of dancing horses.
Wait, how many BoJack Horsemans were there?
Centaurs.
Buckets of them.
But yeah, true story. So my friends are married, and I'm responsible. And then we ate turkey legs and garlic bread, whatever
you
they
ate like kings.
Yes,
garlic bread.
Yeah, authentic medieval cuisine. And also our server, the squire. We told him, and he was super stoked. He's like, "Oh my god, that's so awesome! You guys just got married, and you didn't make it official through medieval times and have to pay all this stuff." And he was thought it was totally punk rock or something. So he gave us free food. He's like, "I'm going to get you guys extra garlic bread."
That is the life. You guys got extra garlic bread.
Yep.
God.
He's like, oh, way to get back at the man,
exactly.
Not getting married at medieval
Show
times.
them, but still celebrating.
That guy probably hates his job, and he's just happy for any little sticking it to him.
Oh, also, actually, what's even funnier is, so during the whole procession at the beginning, they introduced the knights and then the queen and stuff. All of the servers also are introduced. They go out into the main pit of the sand pit where they have all the fighting, and all of our servers are out there too, and they have to be squires in their juice, and you could tell they're just this is embarrassing, and they're servers, they're not there for the performance, but they have to do this thing. But we cheered the loudest for our squires, so they introduced, and the squire, Calvin, and then we all cheered. I think his name was Steve, actually.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's good.
But it was fun times. It was great. Our knight was the first to die, but it was still fun. So that's what I've been up to.
That's good. I also feel validated. I'm glad that you've got use out of your being ordained.
Exactly.
How did they know that you were ordained?
I had mentioned that I had married you, after just hanging out with them, whenever, casually, and they must have remembered or something. And I'm like, oh, Sean, what have you got yourself into this time? I mean, it's no metal detecting. but I like to try to have
No.
some adventures.
That's Sean's new hobby.
Sean-
Just marrying people,
If
hanging
you-
around medieval times.
If you do it one more time, Sean, it's a pattern, and that means that
That's
this
true.
is a thing that you just do. This is part of your identity.
Exactly. That'll be part of who I am. I mean, it is that the actual technical of, what you need to be married is so minimal, and that, like, we tried to make it more than that, but all you literally need to do is just say, all right, I married you, I'm out, and then you sign the form, and that's it. You're married.
And there needs to be a witness.
Yeah, a witness, and that's it. It's so easy to get married.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the point of that is. Just saying.
Sean, what are you implying? All right, fine, we can get married.
So if you're looking at getting married, my email address is Sean Anthony Davis. Reach out. But yeah, that's my Chunkfire story, and now I'm basking in the flames with everyone else. Oh, actually, that's not true, because Chewy, you're watching us.
Yes.
You're watching us
yes.
roast alive.
I have you right where I want you.
Wait, you're watching us
Yes.
right now?
Yes.
You can see me?
Mm-hmm. Put your pants back on.
No.
Oh, okay. I tried. Sorry, everyone. All right. Yeah, I guess we'll kind of gradually shift gears from Chunkfire into main discussions, because my Chunkfire stories are plentiful this week. So
The main way of doing that is just us setting fire to things outside of the campfire ring.
Good. I was going to do that anyway. All right. So I guess I'll just asterisk real quick. As of today, I went back to teaching. Today's like the first day I've taught since February, since I went to the hospital. So I'm back in the game. I'm back in it, baby. But I enjoyed the ends of summer there. I got to go on a big bucket list trip. I get to go. For a very long time, I've always wanted to go to New York, where I'd never been, do a big New York trip and see a Broadway show every single day I was there. And I did exactly that, thanks to some generous gifts and some flyer miles that some people donated to us. We got to do a really big, cool New York trip. So that's what I did. And I did a lot of the touristy stuff. Our hotel was like right around the corner from Times Square, so we spent a lot of time there. Went to Central Park, toured Harlem, Hell's Kitchen. We went to the top of the Empire State Building. We went at midnight, which was cool because the view at nighttime is so awesome. And also just at midnight, there's just like no lines. I could tell that normally there's probably a lot of lines to get up there because there's all these just rooms full of switchbacks, but they were all empty. You could just walk straight through them and just go to the top of the building. So we did that, and that was great. And I ate a lot of hot dogs, and because they're just, I just the concept.
There's like throwing them at you in New York.
The concept. This is such a crazy concept that hot dogs are just like plentiful. They're just readily available anytime. If you want a hot dog, it's going to manifest. It's there, right? I've never experienced that in my life. That's crazy. So I had at least one every day I was there, but more than that though. So yeah.
Just
Wait,
like
what does
the
that
Why
mean?
Does Kids You Know
Elaborate.
skit?
Yeah, yes. I went to my doctor's follow up after the trip, and it was exactly that sketch.
You're like, Chewy, just how many hot dogs would you say you eat per day?
On average, Bob, like 7 a day. I'll post a link to that sketch in the in this episode because it was pretty accurate. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, we did a lot of touristy stuff. We did one of those hop on, hop off bus tours. But like I said, I went to a Broadway show every day. In the order that we saw them, I saw Wicked, Beetlejuice, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and Frozen. So 4 very big, tech heavy, which is, I mean, realistically, there are better shows that, like, better air quotes, like more artsy, like more acclaimed shows that we could have picked. But we both really we know what we're about, and we wanted to see, like, you know, the big over the top, overblown shows, nice. the crowd pleaser ones. So we went to some crowd pleaser shows. I want to talk briefly about some of them. One of them, not so briefly, but I'll just kind of go through them in pretty much order that I enjoyed them. So bottom of my list, unfortunately, was Frozen. I did very much enjoy it. If it were the only show that I saw, I mean, it's a very well put together production. If it were the only show that we'd seen on the trip, I would have been like, yeah, awesome. But it was the last show we saw, and Everything else we saw was better, and also I think Frozen doesn't need to be any longer than the movie. I actually think the Disneyland stage show is better than the Broadway show. Yeah, it kind of had a hard time deciding if it was going to be faithful, like try to stick really to the movie or make a lot of changes, and it doesn't really succeed at either one of them. So, but it's a good production. Special effects are great. Sets are great. The costumes are real lavish. So that was a good time. Wicked. I'm not going to talk too much about Wicked because Sean and we had a little conversation about that recently because you just saw it for the first time within the last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan and I saw it with our family. It wasn't a year ago, but it was like 10 months ago or something. It was a while ago.
It was not that long. We talked about it on this podcast. I feel end of last year, maybe. So, Wicked, I mean, I'd seen it about a decade ago on tour. Maeve had never seen it, and she played the Wicked Witch in productions of Wizard of Oz when she was a kid twice. So she's big on Wizard of Oz and never seen Wicked, so I wanted to throw that one in there. It's as good as I remember. It's excellent. Mostly the same. There were a couple little neat tricks that the Broadway show had that the touring show doesn't, I think because, it's a permanent production. Like when the flying monkeys are introduced, there's way more of them and they fly out over the house, and just little things, little touches that they can do because they know that they don't have to go on tour. But yeah, Sean, you and I kind of talked about how you were surprised by what the plot was actually about. I kind of was re-surprised. I forgot how, like, there's a very strong, like, justice for the oppressed theme in that show. Yeah. And I remember that being there, and I remember being surprised by that the first time I saw it, but I kind of forgot how heavy it is. Like how much of an important thing it is to the plot. And there's not really anything like that in the original Wizard of Oz, so it kind of re-surprised me, but it's good. It was a great time. It's solid. On the opposite spectrum of Frozen was Beetlejuice, which I thought was that's exactly how you adapt a movie to stage. Like all the major complaints I had about Frozen were just completely opposite with Beetlejuice. I like Frozen, just like Frozen. I'm a huge fan of the movie Beetlejuice. And I was really impressed that nearly all the changes they made were for the better. And a lot of the changes kind of, quote, fixed problems from the movie that I didn't realize were problems until I saw them fixed. There was a lot of shuffling of events in the story. There was a lot of fleshing out characters, giving certain characters backstory, just a lot of rearranging, and they really did a script doctor on the original Beetlejuice, and it shows it flows better, it's funnier. The original movie, the character of Beetlejuice is not introduced until at least a third of the way through the movie. You never even see him. He's introduced right away. All the characters have motivations and they're established really early, and just all the things that were memorable about the movie, they made more significant and they tied it into other things. And it's also, the music's really upbeat and catchy, and it was really funny. And from a stage tech standpoint, the set design and the lighting design were phenomenal. It's some of the best I've ever seen. So, Beetlejuice is great. If you can catch it on tour, if you're a Tim Burton or a Beetlejuice fan and it comes around on tour, you should try to catch it.
If you are Tim Burton,
I'm sure Tim Burton's seen it already, but I don't know. I don't know what that guy's up to these days. He's
up until you posted about watching it. I didn't even know there was a Beetlejuice musical.
I didn't know about it until like right before we started planning our trip, and I showed it to Maeve because she's also a big fan of the movie, and I'm like, look at this, and we watched the trailer, and we're like, okay, we have to make room for this one. This looks incredible, and it was great. Highly recommend Beetlejuice. And then the sleeper one for our trip, which I was not expecting to like as much as I did because I've heard a lot of mixed things, was actually Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I loved that play. I cannot believe I'm still like at the point, like, when you go see a movie or a play or something that you really, really like, and for like the next couple hours you're kind of like shaking, you're kind of like, you kind of have that like energy, the kind of, I still get that when I like stop at any moment, like if I just stop like and think about my experience watching that play, I re-feel that again. Like I loved that play so much, and I cannot believe how much of an impact it had on me. It's, for anybody listening or for any of you guys, if you're not super familiar, It was consulted on and overseen by J.K. Rowling, but it was two other people that actually wrote it. And they released the play script in book form, and a lot of people, and they kind of marketed it as the 8th book, and a lot of people I know who have only read it, like, didn't really enjoy it, and
I'm one of those people.
Oh, and you didn't really like it?
No, I didn't. I did not like that book at all.
But
I remember thinking, like, man, this might make a visually very, very awesome stage play.
Yeah, I in college had to read a lot of plays in classes where we would just study them, and there were a lot of plays that I didn't like when I read them, and then later on I got a chance to see on stage and went, I love this. This wasn't meant to be read. And I will die on this hill, I sincerely believe that Harry Potter Cursed Child is one of those shows. And I think it's because in a play form, the play relies on the direction and the acting to sell the emotions, and really... there's certain things that you're not going to feel what they want you to feel unless you're in there in the room watching somebody sell you those emotions. And I really think that this is one of those shows that's true for. The show, total runtime is 5 hours. It's 4 acts long. Every act is an hour and 15 minutes. So it's split up into 2 plays. You watch Act 1, intermission, Act 2, and that's part 1. That's the first play. And then you can either go see part 2 on another day, or you can come back in the evening and watch Acts 3 and 4. So you come back, and what's considered part 2 is you watch Act 3, and then there's another intermission, and then you watch Act 4. So total, it's even longer. You're spending even more time because of intermissions, but time spent actually watching action is 5 hours. It's a lot of Harry Potter.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this. I mean, somebody who's into stage tech, I loved the special effects. The magic was so well done and well thought out and so convincing that, like, after a while, I don't want to say that it stops being special, but, like, they sell it so well that, like, at some point your brain just goes, oh, they're wizards. Like, I'm just watching wizards act out this story, because the first couple magic tricks they do, there's, like, they give you a minute so you can kind of go, wow. But then after a while, they'll just do something magic, and the play just moves right on. It just goes on to the next thing. So it just, the world building on stage in front of you is super super convincing. And there was some really wow moments. I don't want to go too much into spoilers, but there's a scene with Dementors, and there's a few Dementor scenes, but there's one, the big first reveal of the Dementors. There's 3 that come down, they float down. And then one of them comes out over the audience and floats around the audience in circles. And we were on the mezzanine, we were at the front of the mezzanine, so it got right up in our faces. And I gotta say, like, I'm not 100%, like, I'm not really entirely sure how this effect worked, but I gotta say it was convincing. They look better than they do in the movie. Like, if Dementors were real, I'm convinced this is what they would look like. And anytime the Dementors were in the show, the theater went dark. They changed the temperature. It got cold. Everything was blue. They're skeletal. They're, like, covered in, like, ripped rags, and it's just very. Anytime anything like that had to happen, anything magical or anything otherworldly, they really figured out how to sell it to the audience, I thought. So it's there's water. There's scenes where there's a pool that's built into the stage that's revealed at one point, and characters, like, emerge from, which means that to do that, they have to go underground underneath the stage and get into this pool, and that means they're underwater until the scene starts, so they have to swim out of it and climb out onto the stage. So they do stuff like that. There's people shooting fire. Like, have you guys seen Phantasmic at Disneyland? I know most of you guys have. You know that giant jet of fire that the dragon breathes at the end? Mm-hmm. They're shooting jets of fire that size at each other at one point during the show. It's really over the top and crazy. Yeah, I mean, the plot's a little corny, it's a little fanficky, but it worked for me, and I really like, I mean, it's a time travel story, which a lot of people take issue with, but I actually think that thematically they were able to tie in a lot of cool ideas and, like, character moments, and just kind of, they made it work emotionally. Like, it's just kind of the idea, I don't want to go too much into it, but just kind of the idea that, like, there's the ripple effect, right? Like butterfly effects in time travel fiction, where you go back and you change a small thing, it can have massive consequences. They actually play that up on an emotional level where, like, sometimes if you're just nice to a person in a small little interaction, that can change their day and that can change their whole life. And they kind of play that up a lot, where it's like, sometimes people just need to be shown a little kindness, or just a small little thing can totally change their whole thing. And I like that they did that in a goofy, fanficky way, Back to the Future style, but they also did it in an emotional, thematic way, and they kind of tied those two things together. That really worked for me really well. So I enjoyed it. I know they're opening a production of it in San Francisco. I would love to somehow get up there and see it again. But if not, I'd be really surprised if they don't make these into movies at some point. I'd be very, very surprised. So, but on stage, that's the way you got to see it. So, it's strong recommendation for me. I would recommend don't read it. Go see it on stage if you're able to. Because it made me excited for Harry Potter again, and I cannot remember the last time I felt that excited magic about Harry Potter. So.
Definitely wasn't from the Crimes of Grindelwald.
It was absolutely not. Definitely not.
Wait, yeah. I do have one question.
Sure, yeah.
When you were in New York, did you ever hear anybody say, "Hey, I'm walking here"?
Yeah, I heard myself say that.
Did you forget about things?
What?
Did you forget about it?
Yeah, I did. Absolutely.
Did you ever hear any like classic New York phrases?
I probably did, but the thing
is, welcome to New York. Hey, gee golly.
Yep, that's a classic one. Did you hear that one? Or did you hear like, "Hey, I got some hot nuts for you"?
No, I had to ask for them. I said I'd like some hot nuts.
Hey, Charlie, let's check out this guy over here. You want some hot nuts?
That was a little Boston, actually.
Yeah, whatever.
It was a little bit. I feel like anytime you try to do a New York accent, it becomes a Boston accent, because Boston is so much more like
pronounced.
An accent.
Yeah.
Like New York is just like it's just
just
that.
Be a jerk loudly, and you go to
exactly.
New York.
Like, "Hey, I'm walking here," but Boston is like, "That's wicked smack."
Yeah, you're gonna really have fun with it.
Vince, I'm impressed by you're able to distinguish and really pull all those accents off. I think that's your strength in the group here. That's your power.
Oh my gosh! Thank you so much.
You also have a metal detector.
I also have a metal detector.
These powers are imbalanced. I feel, Vince, you have too many powers.
You're OP. We have to beef up our own.
Don't worry, I'll snap my fingers and wipe out half of my powers.
Good. Oh, you have that power.
Yeah, but you have the biggest
I
weakness,
love metal
though.
Detecting.
Children, so.
I do.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So that was my New York trip. It was a probably a once in a lifetime trip. It was a very luxurious, very good time. I got to do exactly what I wanted to do. I went to New York and I saw a Broadway show every day I was there, and I enjoyed every single one of them, and it was a great time. Footnote to this whole story. I had to take a plane to get there and back, and so I watched some movies I hadn't seen. I also watched Captain Marvel again, which I'm not going to say anything else other than I thought it holds up way better the second time, except for the first beginning of it before she gets to Earth. I hated that stuff way more the second time, and the rest of the movie I loved way more. So that's my second viewing of Captain Marvel. But movies I hadn't seen until the airplane, I watched Mary Poppins Returns. And I watched How to Train Your Dragon 3.
Ooh.
I didn't really like either one of them. I didn't dislike either one of them, but they didn't really do much for me. I don't know. I mean, individually, Mary Poppins, I can best describe as we're going to talk about Lion King later, but this whole slate of Disney remakes, like it feels like a animated to live action remake in disguise, which sounds stupid because the original movie's live action for most of it. But like, I honestly feel like with Mary Poppins Returns, if they could have gotten away with doing a straight remake of the original Mary Poppins, they would have, but they knew that they couldn't get away with that. Because it's like, yeah, in the Red Letter Media review about the new Star Wars movies where they're just like, this is new Tarkin, and this is new Death Star, and this is new Vader, and this is new this. That's what this movie felt like. It was this is the new Step in Time. This is new Supercalifragilistic. This is the new Feed the Birds. This is like every scene has an analogy to the original Mary Poppins. A lot of people I talked to who said that they liked this movie, their biggest compliment was it made me want to watch the original. And I don't really know if that's a compliment. Like, because I think the movie follows the plot so one-to-one, like the original so one-to-one. It's just like, yeah, of course, because it's going to remind you of the superior scene from the other movie.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah, and I do have a couple positives, and the main one is that, I mean, well, to start with a negative, the main adult plot is a bank plot, just like the original one. But unlike the original, it is not introduced in the last 20 minutes of the movie. It's introduced at the beginning, and it's a constant threat. It's a constant thing that is being talked about throughout the course of the movie. There's a literal ticking clock element. It doesn't feel like it's just shoehorned in at the end. So I liked that. At least it felt like the movie, like, in between all the time-filling, wacky Mary Poppins musical numbers, the movie could at least check in and say, okay, here's what's going on with the storyline. Here's where we are progressing. So I will say I'll give that as a strength. That at least felt unique, but I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot else there that really did much for me.
What about How to Train Your Dragon?
I don't know. I thought I liked it better than the second one. I'll give it that, but I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than I thought it was just okay. I thought the plot was... Vince, did you see it? I'd be real surprised if you hadn't seen it by now.
I actually haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm sure that you still are planning on seeing it. I thought the storyline was pretty straightforward. Like, it wasn't too complicated. I feel like they backed up a little bit from the second one. But because of that, the movie relies way more on your fondness for the characters and their interactions and their relationships. And I never really had that. Like, I genuinely enjoy the first one. I don't love it, but I genuinely do enjoy that first one. But I feel like by now I should care more about these characters and these situations than I do. And because the plot was kind of a little bare bones, I just kind of felt like I was just sitting through it and things were just happening. You know, like I didn't really care about a female toothless plot. I didn't really care that much about the whole like hidden world plot. You know, I don't know it. And for an end of a trilogy, I feel like it should have hit a little harder at the end emotionally. And maybe that's just me. Maybe Vince, you watch it and you love all these characters, and maybe you get to the end of it and you get emotional. Like that's there's a good chance that'll happen. But for me, it just wasn't there. It wasn't. I feel like they actually maybe should have gone a little bigger with this one if it was actually the end of the trilogy. So, yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I mean, you guys know I've never been the biggest fan of this series, but it's not bad. I just didn't do very much for me.
So what you're saying is it needed to subvert your expectations more.
I don't think I said that.
No, but that's what you're kind of saying.
I don't know. It was just too straightforward. There's just not enough there.
If Hiccup ate Toothless, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, I would have probably sat up in my chair at that point and went, "Oh, hey, yeah, here we go. Something's going on here."
So he just cuts out a piece of Toothless, starts eating it. You would have sat up in your chair, like, all right, finally.
Well, I would not.
We got a movie.
Yeah, we're moving.
Guys.
We got wheels here. We're moving forward.
I would love to hear you say all that out loud on the plane. Like, what's going on in that guy's seat?
Did anyone?
It still wasn't as exciting as when I watched Downsizing, okay, in the plane.
And everybody was literally saying, "What are you watching?" And you said, "I don't want to explain."
Yeah.
And then your son was rolling around. So.
Exactly. Actually, no, it was Ryan Davis who was
because not a single other person with that tablet looked on the menu and saw the movie Downsizing. Nobody saw that as not.
To be honest, I did have to go pretty far in that tablet to find Downsizing.
Oh, so you sought it out.
No, maybe.
I did seek out How to Train Your Dragon and Mary Poppins because I was like, well, I'm trapped on this plane. I should find some movies I haven't seen.
How were you able to fit all three of those movies on your flight? It's only like a 5-hour flight. Something doesn't add up. You weren't in New York.
I split Captain Marvel in half. So,
oh God!
And it's a 5-hour flight. So I watched one movie I hadn't seen on each flight, and I watched half of Captain Marvel on each one. So, yeah.
Hey, Chewy, how much of the free beverages and peanuts and pretzels did you partake in?
I plead the fifth. I opt out.
Because I always take full advantage.
Yeah, it was an embarrassing amount.
Like, how could it be embarrassing? You kept stopping the stewardess every time that she passed by.
Yeah,
or the flight attendant.
It's like she was like, "No, I'm just here to collect your trash." Like, yeah, I know. Do you got any more pretzels?
Yes, that's basically that was basically the lay of the land.
Oh, please go into more detail, please.
No, that's it. No, you got at this point, I'd be forcing it. That's basically what happened.
We'll have to let the listeners imagine someone on a plane asking for an exorbitant amount of free beverages and snacks. Vince?
I guess. Okay, wait. Let me add one more follow-up, please.
Sure, okay.
Did you get some sort of, like, free meal on this plane? Because it was 5 hours long.
I did, and the thing is, on the way there, I didn't know the meal were free. I thought we had to buy them. I could have had breakfast, and I opted out because I didn't know it was free. And then on the way back, I had some sort of mushroom ravioli dish, which was really good. I was just really surprised by how good it was. And corn chowder. It's good too. Yeah.
Did you complain about how hard it is to open the in-flight meals?
The corn chowder?
Who are they trying to keep out of these things?
No.
Right?
Sean, I won't humor your references. I didn't.
Okay.
That didn't happen. Anyway, yeah. So that was my New York trip. I'm gonna relinquish the figurative and literal microphone here because we got some bullet points. Should I go over what we're gonna go over for the rest of this?
Sure. I mean, we could surprise them. We're talking about Lion King later on.
Well, okay,
we already said that.
We're going to talk about... I'm just going to go over it. We're going to talk about Comicon and some of the announcements there. Then Ryan and Sean are going to do a little talk about Hobbs and Shaw. Oh, wait, hold on. The Fast and the Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw.
Thank you.
And then we're going to end with a little bit beefier discussion on Lion King. I know we're almost at the hour mark, but this is the big summer blowout, so...
Yep, we're exploding summer.
Yeah, so...
If there's a violent metaphor, then you know that must be a cool thing.
Excellent. So let's move right along, and I'm gonna give this over to Sean as far as hosting and keeping this under control duties. So why don't you lead this into the Comicon talk?
Always a bad decision. Yeah, well, Ryan and I mentioned we went to Comicon during the Chunkfire Stories, so now we're letting this fire loose, and we're going to go into more detail. Even though we were the only ones who actually went to Comic-Con, Comic-Con is as such that pretty much it's a cultural thing that everyone partakes in now. You went to Comic-Con.
I hate Comic-Con. Never speak of it.
You went to Comic-Con too. And Vince, you did go to Comic-Con too, actually.
Well, I parked in the parking lot, and then my son got pneumonia, and then I went to the hospital for a month. That's exactly what happened.
What a weekend.
Got in the parking lot. And then I got a call from the doctor saying, yeah, your child has pneumonia. You got to take him to the hospital right now. And I never left.
You hadn't even brought him into the hospital. It was weird. You just got a random call from a hospital.
Yeah. No.
We have your son. We gave him pneumonia.
Oh, doctors have, like, telekinetic abilities, and they can, like, read minds, and they know what's going on.
Hospitals are just ransom rackets. Just holding your kids for ransom. Well, you missed out on so much fun Comic-Con stuff. And I bet there was other people with pneumonia, so your son would have fit right in. So it wouldn't have been that big a deal. But, well, just real quick, I was going to mention a couple things that we did, and then we could get into some of the more broader trailer talk. But it was fun. We walked around the hall, and we went to panels. And Ryan and I went to a panel with Mark Hamill in it, and I didn't even know he was going to be there.
Whoa, what a cool thing.
That's pretty cool.
Vince, no.
No, Vince,
what?
Yes, it was pretty cool.
I mean, Vince, yes.
Why is that not pretty cool?
It is pretty cool.
You weren't there.
There's plenty of things
Only
to make fun of
we
Vince
can
about.
say it was cool.
That was a thing that he can say is cool.
But he said it like he participated in it.
No, I didn't. I said that's pretty cool.
Wvince, you are valid for now.
What the heck's going on?
Not for much longer, but for now.
It is pretty cool. No, it was... Well, we were going to try to... Ryan and I waited in line to get into The Witcher. There was a panel on the new Witcher TV series, which were fans of that franchise in the games and books. But, as is known in the Comic-Con legends, waiting in line... means you probably won't get into what you're waiting in line for. So we
God.
didn't get into that panel. But we got in,
Yeah.
and the panel after that was the Dark Crystal TV show. The new Netflix
There's
is doing.
Netflix, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we're like, well, we waited in line for this. Sure, let's go in and check it out. Nothing else is going on. So we got in, and then they announced the panel, and they had the creator or one of the producers, or the director, and then one of the producers was Jim Henson's daughter. She's one of the main producers, and so that was kind of cool. And then Taron Egerton was in the show. He's a voice, so he came out. Kingsman and John Elton.
Eggsy
from Kingman.
What did
Rocket
you say
Man.
to me?
Rocket. The Eagle, the flying Eddie the Eagle.
Eggsy the Eagle. Yes.
Eggsy the
I know
Eagle.
it. I know it.
And then after that, they announced Mark Hamill, and he came out, and it was cool. I didn't even know, but he's a voice.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Yeah. So it was also that whole panel was fun. They showed a lot of the obviously production footage, and it looks freaking crazy. The amount of the production, it's all puppets.
Yeah.
It's all like the movie. Obviously, it's a
Practical.
TV show. Practical effects, puppets. The way they built them all, They have, manual operators. So they built an entire series of tunnels underneath the set so that the human operators could walk amongst these tunnels and hold the puppets up. So it looks
cool.
like you kind of get an idea what it is.
Yeah.
So amongst a lot of other crazy things. But then Mark Hamill was just super charming the entire time and funny and just endearing, telling stories and being his good old self. And then they gave him the Comicon award during that panel, which was also awesome. So every year they give there's a Comicon award to a figure, an icon that kind of, emblematic of what Comicon stands for. I don't know.
Someone who's contributed to the arts. Of
pop culture and stuff.
Yeah.
Last year they gave it to Kevin Smith, which was cool because Ryan and I were there when they gave it to Kevin Smith, and it was awesome.
Oh, man,
and this year they gave it to Mark Hamill, and again, I think it was a surprise to him as well. He was on this panel, so this was the opportunity to give it to him, and so it was just awesome. Standing ovation and just I don't know, heartfelt and just fun, good old time. Clapping for Mark Hamill getting an award at Comic-Con. I don't know if there's a more pristine version of nerddom than that.
Yeah, that was definitely the highlight of the entire weekend. Of just wow, that was, especially since it was kind of random. We didn't necessarily intend on being there, so the fact that we were there and it ended up being a really interesting panel, very entertaining and also just really cool since I think we're fans of Jim Henson in general. And the movie, so that was really cool. And then the fact that Mark Hamill was there and got the Comic-Con award was just icing on the cake at that point.
That was kind of the highlight. But there was a lot of other fun stuff. A couple other panels, cartoon voices. Ryan and I went to this little light escape room light that they were doing with Brooklyn Nine-Nine out front in the gas lamp. That was kind of fun, and we won. Our team won, and we got something. And we, the only reason we got in is because the friends I was with, she's an actress. The people I married, she's an actress, and we were walking by, and she recognized one of the people running the booth at the Brooklyn Nine-Nine, another actor who's working Comic-Con as a gig. And so they're chatting, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we wanted to do this, but the line is super long." And they're like, "Well, we could get you in." So all these people waited 6 hours in line all day, and then we just got in for no wait. And then we won.
What jerks.
I know.
Yeah. We did kind of feel like jerks. But...
Dude, that's the best level of jerkdom, though. That's what you aspire to be as a jerk.
I suppose. And so that was super fun. And then a handful of other things. Ryan actually went to probably a couple more cool panels than I did, because on the one day you're when you went to the other panels.
Yeah, I basically just locked myself in one of those one of the bigger panel rooms, and I went to, there's cartoon voices. It was also, in addition to being the 50th anniversary of Comic-Con and the moon landing, it was also the 50th anniversary of Sesame Street. So they had a Sesame Street panel that felt a little odd being at the Comic-Con, but then I realized, wait a minute, this is exactly the audience for these people. I mean, for all the reasons that a Jim Henson production would be, we all grew up with Sesame Street. It's been around forever, so everyone in that room probably, had some kind of childhood memory with Comic-Con. So
was gonna say.
I mean, with Sesame Street, sorry. So that was really cool. And then I also went to the Kojima panel for Death Stranding. I still don't know what's going on in that game. And it was... The panel was really interesting because Kojima makes very rare public appearances in the first place. So it was just kind of cool seeing him in public. And what else? Oh, yeah, and then the Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Oh, and the What We Do in the Shadows, also the TV show. I went to that panel as well. And all of which were fantastic. And it had the New Zealand guy that is the director of the Thor thing.
Taika Waititi?
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, that guy, because he directs all the,
all the best movies.
All the best things. And the Brooklyn Nine-Nine panel was freaking hilarious. Everyone was there from the show except for the chief and Rosa. But otherwise, everyone was there, and it was freaking hilarious.
That's great. That's a cool. That's a lot of cool people to see at once. Even just like even if we're just like Andy Samberg or whatever, I'd be stoked. But that's a good cast to get to see.
So Comicon was great. And then, of course, we did plenty of walking the floor, checking out stuff. One of our friends has a game he's designing that actually Ryan is co-designing, but and worked on with him. But they were displaying it at Comic-Con, like demoing it at the game rooms in Comic-Con. So that was super fun, just like seeing him, going and helping out and just kind of checking out how he's demoing it and showing people. And bought stuff that I don't need to buy. That's what Comic-Con's about. But what we did not do is go to the giant Hall H rooms, partially because neither of us, we're too old for this to wait in line at Hall H overnight.
Well, you mean the Marvel one, because the Dark Crystal one was Hall H.
Oh, that's right. The Dark Crystal one was Hall H. But we're not waiting in line overnight for Marvel panels, especially when they release the trailers the day after and announce all the stuff. Anyway, so we weren't in the room, but like I said, Comic-Con is now just a global experience that kind of everyone partakes in. So lots of Marvel news coming out of Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's funny you were talking about just how it's a global experience, because I think I was in New York during Comic-Con, and just like all of a sudden I just started seeing tweets and updates like about Marvel stuff, and I'm like, oh, the Hall H panel's happening right now. It's like it must have just started. But let's talk about that.
Yeah, so they announced Phase 4, which was weird because I thought I thought we were done with Phase 4, but
Spider-Man was the end.
No, but they just said, but this is all Phase 4. In the announcement, if you look at the poster, it says Phase 4, and then the timeline to 2022 or whatever.
Spider-Man was the end of Phase 3.
Yeah. I always had thought that was Phase 4, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Phase 4, so they announced the next film isn't until next February or March, right?
It's the spring break time slot next
spring break.
Year.
So we don't have another film for, I guess at this point, 8 months or whatever. So we have a little break from the film, but Disney Plus comes on at the end of 2019, right?
Yeah, I just pulled up the Phase 4 graphic that everybody's posting.
And that's when the next kind of couple things actually hit, and they are including a lot of those TV
Disney
shows.
Plus?
Yeah,
I'd probably get it.
Yeah, how much is it per month?
It's if you just want Disney Plus, I think it's like $7 or $8 a month. But there's a package that comes with Hulu and ESPN that I think is $13 a month. So it's I don't care about ESPN, but that is a pretty good deal for 3 streaming services.
Hey, bro, you can add people on that account. I care about ESPN. How about,
Yeah, okay. Let's just talk about how we're going to take advantage illegally of these streaming services and then put that conversation on the internet.
That's not illegal. You can add friends and family. That's a thing.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we'll decide the legalities later. But yes, Disney Plus is including a lot of their Marvel cinematic stuff. And they're really embracing it with these TV shows, whereas they've distanced themselves with sharing the same universe with like the Netflix shows, where they technically kind of are in the same universe. But so the first thing up though what is it?
It's Black Widow in May.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the next thing. I thought there was something at the end of this year, a Marvel show. Like, no,
not that I'm looking at the graphic.
Hawkeye isn't the.
No, Hawkeye doesn't happen for a while. That's fall 2021. That's a ways out.
What about the WandaVision?
That is spring 2021. So if you want to see 2020, we've got Black Widow in May. We have in the fall the Falcon and Winter Soldier series on Disney Plus, and then November the Thanksgiving slot is Eternals. That's a movie. So three MCU things next year, and then everything else that they announced is crammed into 2021. So that'll be a little while. But what's interesting about those streaming shows is that you were talking about how the difference with the Netflix ones. These, they're embracing the canon, but they're also just, from what I understand, they're not supposed to be ongoing shows. They're they're just like 8, like Stranger Things season, like an 8 or a 10 episode season, and that there's not supposed to be more than that. It's just basically a long movie. It's from what I understand, they're treating these streaming shows as movies, but not 9-hour long movies, basically. Yeah. So I think that's kind of neat. I don't know. Well, I'm open to that idea.
An emergent form of media, hybrid TV show movie, miniseries, I guess.
I guess if there's a reason for that to be that long,
So I don't know. I mean, are you guys actually excited about any of this though? Like, I don't know if I could say I'm really excited. I'm glad that we're not getting anything till next year. I do think that it's good that there's a little bit of a breather. I'm ready to kind of rest from the Marvel stuff for a while. I don't know if I'll be ready by next May or if I'll care about Black Widow. But just in general, do you care about any of the stuff they announced?
Yeah,
the Thor kind of seemed interesting. I'm excited for that.
The stuff
but I don't know.
I'm excited for most of it. I'm not super. I mean, it might be fun, but I'm not super excited for What If. It's basically just an animated alternate timeline stories, which could be fun, but I don't know if it's. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I don't really know about Hawkeye, and I know so little about the Eternals as a concept that it's hard for me to get excited about. But I've been that way with most of these Marvel properties. Iron Man, Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, almost all of them, I'm like, well, I don't really know anything about this, so I'll just go in and see what it is. And I've enjoyed most of them. So so a lot of them, I'm kind of just like, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. But I would say that just in general, I am excited. I think Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is like the coolest title. Like, that's the most enticing title. And then Thor, Love and Thunder with that very... He-Man logo looks fun.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm down.
I mean, I'm down for it. I guess it's not that I'm not gonna see them or interested. I guess just excitement. Maybe it's just like I said. Just it's a subdued. Like, okay, that's interesting. They're still doing stuff, and I'll still see it. They got stuff going, but I'm not like pumped. Like, oh my god, I can't wait for that.
You know what?
Yeah, I think it's Well, yeah, I think part of it for me, because I know what you're getting at, Sean, I think I at least share some of that, but is this like coming off of just the insanity that was Endgame? Mm-hmm. It was such a huge buildup, and it's hard to even imagine that anything can top what they just did. So I think it's kind of like, oh, this is still going, right, mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. They're going to have to really convince me that it's worth me getting excited over. Not that I'm like some sort like, you must prove
you
to
must
me
please
that
me.
It's worth. Yeah, I don't necessarily mean it like that, but at the same time, I think there's an emotional state where you're kind of like that. It was kind of emotionally exhausting going through all that. Yeah. So it's like a matter of like, ooh, man, am I ready for that again?
I know what you're saying, because I felt similarly going into Spider-Man Far From Home, but I loved Spider-Man Far From Home. I went to go see it. I saw it again, and I think I liked it more the second time, and I definitely put it in my top 5, maybe top 3 Marvel movies ever. And I thought but coming off of Endgame, I'm like, ooh boy, that was a lot of story. Those were a lot of stories, and that was a lot of build up, and I think I need a break. And then I went to Spider-Man, and I went, nope, turns out I don't, because they wrote me right back in. And I went to go see Endgame a second time, and it didn't have the same magic for me the way that Spider-Man did, surprisingly. Like, I kind of was just like, I kind of, in a way, Endgame was like an ending. It was like, all right, let's move on to the next thing. I guess I'm more excited going forward than kind of what has to come, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see what you're saying. I mean, I for sure, loved Far From Home as well, but I think I'm super excited. It got me super excited, but I think it got me more excited for just Spider-Man than the MCU at large.
Right.
Also, what did you guys think? So, were you guys expecting it? Surprised, not surprised? Of any lack of announcements about any of the Fox properties that they potentially could be. Like, there was no hint or inkling of any mutant stuff.
I am not
That's
expecting.
coming,
I'm not expecting to see mutants or X-Men for a while. I was surprised that there was no Fantastic Four stuff.
Yeah, or Fantastic Four.
But they might still set up Doctor Doom or Galactus in any of these things without setting up Fantastic Four. The nice thing about Fantastic Four is they can introduce that story at any time, whereas mutants, we have to explain and come up with an excuse for why mutants haven't been here this whole time. And I think with this, like, this WandaVision stuff, which is supposed to be tied to Multiverse of Madness and all the weird time travel-y stuff, I think this phase is a chance for them to kind of, like, take a step back and figure out how are we going to incorporate all these new properties in phase 5, and maybe let's just take a break and just kind of they got to start planting seeds again. They can't jump to another Thanos. They got to start planting seeds.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think they're smart enough. They know how it has to be done. They don't want to rush into it. And so all of that, for sure, I give them the credit that I think they've earned in terms of how they're building that and stuff. So I do hope. I think it would be clear that this is going to be a transitionary phase, which just sounds like hilarious. Like, that sentence alone. This is a transitionary phase in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
But I think it's exactly apt. I think that's exactly right. Thing.
Yeah.
You have to talk about it like it's nothing else that's going on right now in cinema. So yeah, it is a transitionary phase for this crazy thing. You can't say that about other
right, you can't, because there's nothing to compare it to. They are writing the rules for what it is that they're doing, and we have to just sit here and guess what those rules are. That's kind of and it will reveal it to us in time, but until then we can only really speculate.
On further thought, you're absolutely right in that, if nothing else, I'm excited because it's unknown, and there's an excitement to that. And I agree that just the unknown, these are going to be new characters, new franchises, and slightly new worlds. So, and I don't know where it's going to go. Where are they going to take it? Yeah, that's exciting for sure. So
yeah.
And they're giving me what I want. Just as a last note, I said I do not want X-Men in this phase. I don't want to see X-Men for several years, and this is at least confirmation that I won't get it for a few years.
Yeah, so that's true. I still think I would love for them to introduce X-Men or individual mutants or X-Men in other franchises until they build to maybe that something. I could see that being almost similar to how they did the Avengers.
I want Fantastic Four. They've botched 2 Fantastic Four attempts already. It can't be that hard. I feel
like that's like they got to really be sure. Like, okay, if we're gonna do this, it's brought down.
It can't be that hard. What's the problem?
Yeah, I don't know.
They made Guardians of the Galaxy work. They made a bunch of other weird stuff work.
I mean, the thing is, unfortunately, they can't include Michael B. Jordan again. Because he's already in the Marvel
that's true.
No, sure they can. I mean, Chris Evans is the original Flame.
That's true.
Sure. Well, what? No, but Michael B. Jordan is literally in the MCU. Like, he can't be.
Yeah, but that's what Ryan's saying.
That's what I'm saying.
They made Chris Evans part of the MCU, even though he was already in Fantastic Four.
No, but so he was in a Marvel movie. Chris Evans was, but Chris Evans has the MCU role of Captain America. Michael B. Jordan,
has the MCU role of Warmonger.
He can't also reprise the role of whatever Fantastic.
I don't want him to.
You're saying concurrently.
Yeah,
Vince. Why would anybody want that? Why would anybody want anything else but them to throw that version of Fantastic Four entirely in the garbage? Like, why would we want him?
You're saying this how wrong. It's Fan Four Stick.
Why would we want? I throw all of Fan Four Stick.
Well, but also
the garbage.
Warmonger is dead. Also, so
that's true. He could get reincarnated.
I've heard that he was in talks to come back for Black Panther 2 at some point, but I feel like he's going to be hanging in Purple Spirit Realm. I think that's where we'll see him.
He has to, because he technically was the king.
Or flashbacks. I could see it be flashbacks.
No, he would be there because he was the king for at least a moment.
Yeah. Is he Mufasa? He's going to be in the clouds with Mufasa?
I hope so.
Yes, he'll be in the clouds.
Speaking of that,
No, wait, we're jumping too far ahead.
Also, there's another bullet point before that too. So
there's another major bullet point for Comicon. I don't know if Chewie, this is where you're going, but I had another thing to talk about outside of the MCU.
Sure, go for it.
So there were other trailers that were revealed at Comicon. Some of the stuff was somewhat exciting. We got some Top Gun, Maverick. We got the new Terminator. I don't know, Chewie, do you have thoughts about Terminator? No? All right, got it. And then the most important thing to, coincide with our line of this year's theme of trailers that break society, we have the fantastic trailer for Cats that was released during So yeah, that trailer came out, and we haven't had an episode since it came out to talk about yet. So I think this is very important. So just to give you, if you haven't seen the trailer, hey guys, do you remember when we were camping, like at our camp, like 10 years ago, and I woke up in the middle of the night screaming?
Oh no!
And I had a night terror, and you guys tried to get me to describe it the next day, and it was hard to describe, and I was just like trying to describe you visual thoughts and images and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this trailer came out, and that was my dream.
The funny thing
I
is,
know your pain.
Chewie had a similar response, which was just, really? That's what he said.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I remember coming home one of the days after the Comic-Con and talking to my roommates, and we didn't talk about the next Marvel films. We're all like, "Have you seen the Cats trailer?" and then one of us hadn't seen it. Like, oh my god, we're watching it right now. And we didn't watch any of the Marvel things. We didn't watch any of the Witcher trailer. We watched the freaking Cats trailer.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where to even start.
Everything about it is baffling. For one thing, Tom Hopper, and they even say in the trailer,
Tom Hooper,
from the director of The King's Speech and Les Miserables. What is?
Yes.
I once again pose. What timeline are we living in? What is this?
I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is that I remember reading at least a year ago. Oh, this Cats movie finally in production. They finally started filming, and they announced the cast. This was at least over a year ago, and I remember reading that, going, "That is bonkers." But then my brain kind of just immediately deleted that information until the trailer came out, and I went, "Oh right." Oh.
Then you had a 404 error.
Oh yeah, I broke. I broke. The trailer broke me. I did not.
I don't even. Well, the thing is, has anyone ever actually seen the play?
No, I haven't.
I have
but
not.
There's a Broadway streaming service that has recordings of Broadway shows, and they have Cats on there, and I'm tempted to subscribe for a month so I can watch it.
Yeah, my exposure to the Broadway play is the 4th season of Kimmy Schmidt when Titus gets which I think is accurate. So I'm going solely based off that. Also, I mean, I know a little loosely about it. It's based on T.S. Eliot poems, and there's no linear narrative. It's just about cats. Each song is about a different cat, and there's the real base plot is there's a cat, and he's gonna choose one of the other cats to die that night, and then you're gonna meet all the cats, and one of them dies, and then it gets reincarnated as another cat or something. I don't know. This is what I picked up of the plot, but there's no real plot. There's no what we consider a traditional plot in human society.
Sean, do you think we will get the Cats cinematic universe?
I think that is phase 5. That is what it's all been leading to.
Well, no, in order to do it, I don't want the Cats cinematic universe, because that's just Cats. I want that's just the movie Cats. I want the Andrew Lloyd Webber cinematic universe. They've already done Phantom of the Opera. Next one I want is Starlight Express. I want the one where everybody
Starlight Express
on rollerblades.
I knew you guys were about to quote Family Guy, but do you guys actually know what that show is about?
I have no idea.
Future. Isn't a dystopian future sci-fi thing?
I'll make this simple. Imagine it's cats, but instead of cats, everybody's a train.
So it's cars.
Basically.
It's Thomas the Tank Engine.
You could just call it Trains. That would be a better name for it. It's just Trains. Everybody's a train.
So Peter Griffin's interpretation is accurate.
Yeah, that's the joke.
Starlight Express.
The main character is a train named Starlight Express.
Problem just in our day and age with the verbiage of cinematic universe. Like, a movie can now exist as just a singular movie, but now
and it's still cinema. Yeah,
It has
it's
a cinematic
because
universe.
it's a franchise. There's no such thing now as a singular piece of media. Everything is, even if it doesn't have another movie, it has a tie-in app or a promotional campaign or a little mini web series or a comic book or right. So everything is now part of it. You have to have cross media, pollinization. That's the word, right?
I mean, like,
Pollinization.
how long is it going to be to where it's like we have like horrible like historical events that become their own cinematic universe? Like, there's like a 12 years.
There
a
is.
Slave
I talked about
cinematic
this.
universe.
Didn't I bring this up in a couple episodes ago about the shared cinematic universe of like historical times? So, speaking of Tom Hooper, like the King's Speech. And that Churchill movie that came out last year.
Just anything that takes place during World War II is the World War II cinematic.
Yeah, but like
it's the
specifically
Earth
about
universe.
British.
Okay, so then, like,
but then also like the moon landing. If you go watch the right stuff, and then like Apollo 13 and the Neil Armstrong first man, then Apollo 13. Right, like it's this shared. It's all the same characters, and they're like, yeah.
All right.
Ryan, thing you just sent us. I'm sorry.
I don't mean to party pooper, but we're at an hour and 20 and we haven't talked about Hobbs Shaw or Lion King yet. So unless you guys have any burning things to add about Comicon or Cats, I think we might want to think about moving on here.
That's fair. I suppose.
I've got one burning thing. Do you think Halle Berry will have a surprise cameo?
In what?
No, if they had Halle Berry, they would put her because they put everyone
that
else.
That would be a major trailer. Marketing thing if she was in the movie. So
they have Judi Dench. What? Like, and is that? Do you think this Judi Dench acting? And
Jason Derulo.
Do they?
Taylor Swift.
I know that was insane.
Taylor Swift is in this. This is the most insane cast of any movie.
And why are they miniature? Like, why are they the size of?
Because they're cats.
But they're human. They're clearly human. It's like It's the Island of Dr. Moreau if was a musical.
Well, I know one particular demographic that will be a huge fan of this movie. Furries.
Oh yeah.
I'm not taking the bait. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
There's no rabbit hole. It's just
Good.
a statement.
Let's move on.
It's just a flat piece of earth.
Cuddly rabbit
There's
hole.
grass growing out of it. It's very pleasant.
I'm tapping out for this one. Ryan and Sean, take over. Here we go. We're moving on.
Well, Hobbs and Shaw. I don't know what's more disturbing: Hobbs and Shaw as a franchise or film or Cats.
Well, no. I mean, after seeing the movie, it's clear they're trying to make it its own franchise within the sub-franchise of Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Well, okay. So first of all, Vince and
How much longer
Matt
can The Rock do this? I'm just like, first, let's just say
do
The Rock
this.
is like 60.
We all know what this means.
We do, because I'm making hand gestures that you can apply.
Yes, we all know. But okay, just to preface though, Vince and Matt, you have not seen, but you also don't care about spoilers.
Not at all.
And also, if you're listening to this and you care about spoilers for Hobbs and Shaw,
I would like to meet the person that cares
please
about
write
spoilers.
in and tell us.
Genuinely, I want to know.
And also skip ahead because we're about to talk about Hobbs and Shaw.
Also, The Rock is 47 years old. He's got 13 years until Vince can ask that question.
I know. I was exaggerating. I knew he wasn't 50, but I'm saying he's been in movies for like 30 years. That's old.
It hasn't been that long. Well, I guess Scorpion King was like 2003?
No, it's 2001.
Oh, almost 20 years. Okay, well, let me just say flat out, this year at the very least, in a while, I have not despised a movie more than Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, really? Oh.
I did not like this movie at all. Despise is a very strong word, but I stand by it. I want, and this is not going in with a pretentious film, like, I knew what this film was going to be before I went in. Clearly, I was not under any illusion.
Sean, I would like to say, isn't that just what a pretentious filmmaker would say?
Would they? I don't know. I
continue.
I think they would be more, closed-minded. I was going in pretty open-minded. This to me, it was so. Like the last couple Fast and Furious movies, I've enjoyed. I think we've kind of generally talked about how like 5, 6, and 7 or something, they've been fun for what they are, and they've just been that crazy roller coaster ride. And there's no illusions about them being some high drama, but they're just really good, fun, entertaining action movies. And that's what I was hoping for at the very least for this. And to me, it was not. It was like mean-spirited and stupid on all the worst levels. It was not self-aware. It wasn't like trying to play with any of that stuff. And I guess part of it is it was like in those 80s movies where like there's the bully who is bullying the main character like at a ski resort. It's like, you stupid little wimp, you can't do this. Imagine if that character is the main character of a movie, but not ironically. Like, they literally let me think it, like, yeah, this guy's cool because he's strong, and he's cool because he's strong. That's why you should like him, because he's
Sean,
strong.
I have to ask, how many 80s movies can you remember off the top of your head where there's a bully at a ski resort?
Well, it's the South. I was going off primarily the South Park, parody, but all those like 80s kind of, cliche 80 movie style movies where it's like a kid in school and there's a bully and stuff.
Okay, so Sean,
that's my thought.
Who in the film is that bully? Because to me, this was it's a quote unquote buddy frenemies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
thing.
sure. It's
so
that.
they're bullying each other, which is, well, I think it's at least supposed to be the charm of the film. Is that these two people get, like what, Turner and Hooch, and they don't like each other, but they will. I mean, right? Like, I'm not sure who you think the bully is. I'm not saying.
I mean, I don't mean they're bullies in that there's someone who's not a bully. I just mean, imagine if you take that character, and that's the characters, and that's your hero in the movie. I'm not saying that the relationship is part of the movie. I'm just saying that type of character. Like, I don't like that type of character, even if he's not per se bullying someone. I don't know if that's too obscure, but that's all I'm saying is that those characters, the character of The Rock and Jason Statham, but primarily The Rock in this, I like The Rock in general. I don't think he's a good actor, but I think he tries a lot, and I like him for that. But in this, I disliked him. In this movie.
That's unfortunate because I agree with you. He's charming and he's fun to watch, and even when he's acting bad, he's a good time.
Yeah, I think he plays best when he's playing against that type of character. Like in Jumanji, that's funny because he's like, he's nervous and shy and kind of, and like, or even like, what's that CIA movie? Like he's a nerd and like, when he's kind of playing not the jock, like when he plays into that, and even in the Fast and Furious movies, he's not the main character. So it's kind of fine because he's to the side and he's kind of the flavor playing against, well, Vin Diesel's not much better, but some of the other characters, at least you have a variety. But in this, it's just like embracing this, just like, yeah, if you're smaller than me, you're a bad person. You're not a good, you're stupid. And I'm going to make fun of you for being a small person. And, masculinity is about being stronger. That's all it's about.
Well, okay, I guess I don't necessarily disagree with that. But Jason Statham, to me, that was more a trading of blows between Statham and Johnson. Because Statham gave equal blows in saying that he's a hulking mass. Like, right, there's that one scene where he's like, okay, The Rock is something like, we're going to stealth in there. We're going to sneak in there. And Statham's like, wait, have you seen yourself? You are a gigantic mass of a human. There's no way you're sneaking anywhere. Like, I don't know. It is, to me, it's like, yeah, he was giving Statham crap for being small and he was giving it back. I took that as banter. I didn't really pick up the bully element that you're referring to.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that it was banter for sure. I just mean just like in general. But it made fun of Jason, like he kind of poked fun at Jason Statham, like, you're not as big as me and stuff. But just on a general sense, not just pertaining to The Rock, but just in a general sense, it came down to like, yeah, if you're not big and strong, then you kind of suck. Like,
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, and I'm not, and obviously,
I mean, it is an action movie. I'm not
sure.
Yeah,
I suppose, but I just mean like. I don't know, like I'm looking too far into this, but when the virus in the movie is called the snowflake virus, like I don't know if that's intentional.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. Like this film is like it's very mean spirited in that regard. It's like look,
I definitely agree with that.
So those kind of things. And if it was just that, I could look beyond it. But then also it was just like I don't know. It was just also dumb and not funny. Like the banter stuff, I think they thought they were a lot funnier than it actually was. Like there's that scene in the plane with Kevin Hart. Like I know exactly what they were going for with that scene, but to me, it didn't work. And maybe it's the audience.
Of the jokes, Yeah, like, well, it's funny that you mentioned, like, there's who cares about spoilers, but the one thing I would say that there is spoiler to material is the guest celebrity
so actually,
cameos,
the guest celebrity
which
cameos
were the best part of the film.
Yes, Ryan Reynolds was actually the best part of this whole film,
Yeah,
I thought.
he friggin' like stole. He was only there for like 10 minutes, and he stole the show. You're like, God dang it, Ryan Reynolds! Like,
yeah, exactly.
Why aren't you just in this movie?
Well, part of that just kind of shows like Ryan Reynolds. He actually has comedic timing, and he's charismatic, and he's funny. And then when you have the whole rest of the film with The Rock, and I actually like Jason Statham to a certain extent, but I didn't really like him in this movie, obviously. But like, well, you guys don't quite have it. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a lot of jokes that you could tell they wanted to be funny.
Yeah,
I think maybe 1 out of every 10 landed, and I would go, oh, okay, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I don't. Overall, I can't say I hated the film definitely not as much as you.
Yeah.
To me, I was just like, this is a cute little, just adorable little summer action movie. It's probably an hour too long, but
yeah, it was too long too. I mean, yeah, I'm being way overcritical. It's not. It's supposed to be a fun summer action movie, and it is. Right, I'm not saying it's not that, but to me, it's like James Bond without the suave and the charisma.
Oh,
and
it's funny because that's exactly how I said. This movie is not a Fast and the Furious movie.
It's not a Fast and Furious movie. It's like Mission Impossible, but without any of the smarts or intelligence. It's like take all these other franchises and take the good stuff from those other franchises, and that's what you're left for Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, it's funny that so when I describe this movie to people, I said, like, it's not a Fast and Furious movie. Imagine Mission Impossible or James Bond and just make it not as fun and not as good. But it's funny because I chose both those two films because it's just like a spy action movie. Shoot 'em up, do your thing and have a good time. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah. It doesn't warrant strong emotions either way, and I understand that. But that being said, I did not like it. But there you go, Hobbs and Shaw.
All right,
a little chunk of Fast and Furious.
Well,
Tokyo
you guys have said your piece. Speaking of does not elicit strong emotions either way, let's move on to our last.
Lion King.
Here we go.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Lion King. Well, I'm not. Spoilers. Stupid. Doesn't even matter. It's the same movie as the animated Lion King. I don't. So whatever. Go watch that stupid movie or that good movie if you want to know what happens at this stupid movie. Well, okay. So this movie's fine. It's just fine. I don't know.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much there is to be talking about this because I definitely did not have a strong emotional reaction to this film. I was really just like, okay.
I was going in expecting to dislike it more than I did, but that being said, I did not like it. Like, well, I don't know. It's exactly what you like. If you were to describe, it's the Lion King, but they just put CG animals in instead of like photorealistic CG animals. Imagine that. That's what. There you go. That's your movie. That there's nothing beyond that.
Right, and so there's trade-offs to that, right? Because on one hand, you might say, well, just on a pure artistic level, you're like, oh wow, are those real lions? Did they actually animate these? These look super real. Even the behaviors are super real. The way the lions pace and things like that.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, I mean, it's pretty cool. It's like I'm watching a nature video.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, this reminds me more of like Planet Earth or something.
Yeah.
Well,
which is kind of cool.
I'm going to fully acknowledge my bias here. Lion King is my favorite Disney animated movie. Lion King is my favorite Broadway stage show. I did not like this movie at all. You're mentioning the Planet Earth stuff. One of the things I like about both of the other versions of Lion King so much is that it has like a magical quality. And there's like a bit of like mysticism and there's like a dash of spirituality and that kind of stuff. And it's just kind of like the whole circle of life. It gives it this more like, it's less of a biological circle of life and more of just like the world's in balance. And the scene that I feel like most exemplifies my distaste for this movie is the scene with the ball of poop. Because like, you can't have Simba just like express his angst and have the angst fly away in the sky and then have Rafiki sense it. You have to have a literal piece of hair like get carried by an animal and then someone eats it and then the animal poops it out and then a dung beetle rolls it into a ball and the ball floats down a river and through this convoluted nature documentary series of events it gets back to Rafiki and that's how he knows Simba's alive. Like that is representative of everything that I didn't like about the movie. Like it's got no character. because the animals look too real, they can't express any emotions. The color's all gone. Like, I just feel like, like we always have to ask this question, like, what are we adding or what are we gaining by remaking a thing? And I mean, for me, it just it took away. It didn't add anything except for runtime.
Yeah. Right. I love that you mentioned color, Matt, because that is one of my, in terms of just visual elements, sticking to that for, I guess, right now, it lacked any color, which provides a lot of character and pop to the film, right? Like, and that goes in part to the music, where, especially in I Can't Wait to Be King, that scene, or that, you know, that musical number in the animated is so vibrant and lively and fun and just bombastic and crazy. And this one it's I don't know, it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
It's fun.
I mean, it's all, imagine it's exactly if you imagined animals running in the wild.
Yep.
And put some music over it. Like, if you just put narration and, like, voices over a nature documentary, you wouldn't be that far off from what this film elicits emotionally.
When everything's supposed to be happy, everything is tan yellow. When everything's supposed to be sad, it's gray. There's even in like the original, like, Be Prepared, it's the villain song. It's like green, you know, like everything is vibrant in some way, even if it's like dark or depressing or whatever. It has its own vibrancy and its own color palette. There's no color literally or emotionally in this movie at all.
Right.
So would you guys compare this more to like Homeward Bound?
No,
I mean, we're saying nature documentary, but that's only on the visual level. Like, it's structurally, scenically, character, like, dialogue, everything is almost exactly like the original Lion King. Okay. But part of that original film is embedded in the form it takes, right? Like, you can't separate form from function and expect it to be the same when you translate it.
Right.
Exactly. No matter what the medium. And unless you're doing it intentionally by doing it with an intent to add something by transitioning the form or whatever, right? If you're just doing it clearly in this case for a cynical reason, like, it's a pretty negative view, but for a cynical reason, it comes across as really obvious as purely a cynical driven motive. Right. I think. And going on kind of the visual stuff, like, you're right, it's kind of hard to separate it because it is clearly amazingly crafted, and I think that's something important and I think I read this in one of the reviews or something, the distinction to make between how much craft is involved in this film, which there is a lot of. It looks amazing.
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
You can't deny that. There's a lot of craft, but that does not make it good art, right? And I think there's a distinction to be made, and I think that is what I think is lost on a lot of these remakes. This perception that, like, oh, it's so realistic and photorealistic, like, but who cares?
Right.
Like,
like that. Yeah. And I think I like that you mentioned too, like, that doesn't make it good art, because one of the things I am in looking at this film, and maybe even Aladdin, or comparing it to the Jungle Book, and why is this one so much quote unquote worse, or whatever you want to say. And I think this because this one, it doesn't stand on its own as its own art. Like, I think Jungle Book was, because it felt like there was there was someone behind it that, like, it just felt like they were trying.
It's ironic because it's the same person.
Right.
I was about to say that. Yeah. But I think, going back to what, Sean, you were saying in terms of the cynicism, I think the motivations, well, I don't know, I'm not going to put that on him, but at least the studio, perhaps, that you could maybe start looking in, or at least investigating in that direction, as to why one film felt driven and the other one felt like a carbon copy, kind of just printing money.
Yeah, I think that there were a lot of weird choices in this movie, and if we're talking, I mean, like, we're talking about, okay, and I mentioned it when I was talking about Frozen on Broadway, and, you know, I'm really into the Broadway Disney shows, but, like, the Lion King show made a lot of changes that they chose to expand certain things that added to the themes, and they had this whole library of things that they had done with the stage show that they could have incorporated into this movie if you have to remake The Lion King. And they didn't take advantage of any of that. I mean, the stage show has a ton more Simba and Nala songs, and if you're going to get Donald Glover and Beyonce to play Simba and Nala, like, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? Like, and then going back to kind of the tone and the color and the, you know, just the nature doc look of it, another scene that I think exemplifies why I don't like this movie very much. One of my favorite moments in the original was when the stampede starts and you see that shot of the wildebeest running down the cliff.
Yeah.
And then it zooms in on Simba's face before he starts running. And there's that big musical note, that screech.
Yeah.
And you see his horror, his shock, and then he starts running. In this movie, they don't do that, and they even cut those musical notes out. It cuts, because for most of the movie, the score is identical to the original movie. But they cut a couple seconds out of the score because that scene's not there. And I think it's because with this style, it would have looked ridiculous. Like, what facial features are we meant to zoom in on Nature Doc Simba?
On a lion.
Yeah.
Like, that's just... I mean, it's interesting that you bring that scene up because there are other parts of that sequence that I do remember they do have almost shot for shot. And I think I'm thinking of the kind of the climax of that scene or whatever when Mufasa dies and Simba's watching him fall, and you get the opposite zoom. You get the zoom out from Simba's face looking, and that being from the film, from the animated film, at least in my memory. And I think that also kind of keys into where this is coming. Like, it feels so manipulated in that sense, or manipulative in that sense, in that they're playing on you knowing these scenes, and they're going, oh, we got to have this exact shot because the audience is going to subconsciously remember these shots. Mm-hmm. So we're going to play into that nostalgia on such a level that we're going to mimic the exact shot. Like, and to me, that's such a manipulative take, but it also comes across and it's like, well, and I ask this far too often, but who's the audience for that? Like, does this film stand on its own? Do you think this film works without having seen the animated film?
Well,
and there's so many levels that it almost feels like they are expecting you to have seen the animated film.
Yeah, and I've made all of these arguments to other people who have seen and liked this movie, and usually the main argument I get in response is like, well, the kids liked it, or I brought my kids and they enjoyed it.
So yeah, exactly. But
here's the thing, though. In my personal viewing experience, all the kids in my theater were restless. They were bored. They were running around, not watching the movie. The kid next to me kept begging his parents to take him home. And a family left, like a family with a bunch of kids left, like in the middle of the movie because their kids were just like not into it. So, I mean, I don't know if that was just my experience but I don't know. Like, you could tell there were moments in the movie where they were quiet and well behaved. And it was like, oh, this is one of the rare moments of the movie where it actually translates well and it's still interesting. And like, oh, I can tell they're into it, you know? Like, you can tell when a kid's enjoying something. So, yeah, going back to your question, I'm not sure. Like, are we trying to sell Lion King in this new format to a new generation of children? Because, like, I mean, I don't have kids and I won't, but if I did, I would show them the animated one. And I would imagine they'd enjoy it more. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, there are some jokes that are literal plays off the jokes from the original film, which that's fine. Like, I'm not against that. Like, I'm fine having a handful of meta jokes. Like, but it just kind of is emblematic of what I think the film as a whole. It, like, are they just like, you've seen the animated, now's the live action. Like, that's your marketing. That's what their marketing campaign is like. There's no illusion that this film stands on its own. And it's a weird concept that they're not even trying to maintain that illusion.
Right, exactly.
That's like, yeah, no, we know that this doesn't film. Yeah, you have to have seen the animated. But look, now there's live action, right? Like, you guys want to see that now, right?
Yeah, there's a good example I have of that is when they're singing Hakuna Matata and Seth Rogen sings Every Time That I Farted. Yeah. And he sings it and then he goes, aren't you going to cut me off? And Toomboomba's like, I don't know, you were just into it. I wanted to let you do your thing. That's a joke, expecting that you've seen the original and you know that he cuts off before saying farted. And there's stuff like that where I'm just like, gosh, what am I supposed to feel about that?
I don't know how I feel about that.
What am I supposed to feel? I don't know. It's so weird.
It is really weird, too, because, you know, walking into this movie, we're so familiar with the original stories that we become hyper aware of all those changes, right? Like we every single line, like, oh, was that line the same?
Yeah, exactly.
And even the line delivery, sometimes I think we're like, oh, they made that, like you said, like they made this line a joke versus before it was this joke or it was whatever. Yeah. So it almost becomes like it's impossible for me to truly watch this movie as a movie, because I'm so hyper aware of, I have these expectations, or I'm just looking at it from like, oh, they changed this. So it's...
Yeah, I agree with you totally, because I'm aware of my own biases and how strong they are because of how much I love the other versions of Lion King. And I would love to put those aside and watch this purely, but I know I can't, so I may as well embrace those biases, you know, because I can't set them aside. No matter how hard I tried, I can't push them into the closet, you know?
So aside from like the craft element in terms of just like the visual fidelity, and again, like kind of even another slight kind of adjacent point to me is, and this kind of, I have an issue with this in lots of like these super photorealistic and how much time and attention they spent on like that blade of grass. Every blade of grass is fully rendered and took artists hours. Like
every single
that's great, but why? Dear God, why? No one asked you to do that.
Yeah, I don't care. Like, I'm not staring at
no one cares. I'm exactly.
I'm interested in the story and whether it's fun and enjoyable. I don't care how many blades of grass there are.
So to me, it's like is this weird, almost like infatuation with these things that we think everyone thinks the audience wants, like, oh, they need it to be so produced.
Well,
like, no,
I think they're thinking like, well, if someone goes back and watches this movie 10 years now, it's like, oh, it won't look as good on whatever technology we have. They're going to notice the Starbucks cup in the background if we don't make sure we get this perfect.
I'd like to sum this up as well as I can, if you would let me.
Why? You haven't
someone who hasn't seen the film.
Why would you do that?
Let me
make it quick.
Whoa. Okay. All right.
Go. Sum it.
Mean. So, but I'm not talking about the movie in general. I'm talking about why studios are doing this. It's like Ian Malcolm said in Jurassic Park. They're so preoccupied in whether or not they could, they never stop to think if they should.
I definitely think there is that element to it for sure. It's like, well, we have the technology to do this, so of course we're going to do what we're not going to be backwards, and we're not going to be, a lesser studio and put half effort into something. Yeah, it's like, well, no one's actually put half effort into it, but maybe put effort into things that matter. Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's a fine line.
I think Vince
visually, like, visuals are what is going to like bring the next generation of an audience into the cinema, or just into video in general, when really it's the story that's compelling, and they don't quite grasp that idea fully, I don't feel like.
Well, look, visuals do get people to buy things, right? That's obviously. If it comes to books, video games, card games, whatever it is, people will look at the box, they'll look at it, they'll judge it by the cover, and they will make a financial decision based on that. But when it comes to repeat viewings or like a continued persistence thing, that's where content and substance matters. And for better or for worse, for movies, or just for anything, I suppose, after that first wave, if the content doesn't hold up, that will become known, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we've seen the film and we were drawn in by the visuals, and we go tell our friends, hey, I know it looks good, but it ain't, well, that's hopefully where it'll make the difference.
Yeah.
Between good art and money grab.
Yeah. And I think also kind of to add on that too, like not only do visuals make a difference in terms of that initial like draw, sure, but also like if you look back on influential films like Star Wars and stuff, like, oh, if those visuals don't necessarily hold up as high as they used to, they still hold up fairly well, right? But aside from that, I think there's this such a focus on like, we have to make sure this film stands up. It's like, stop worrying about whether it stands up. Make the best film for now. Like, live in the, like, what is the best film that you could deliver now?
Well,
and best doesn't mean the most expensive or the most, hours spent on animal animations of a cat whisker or something.
Mean, is anybody saying that, like, this new Lion King movie is, like, revolutionary in terms of visual effects?
I haven't really seen much of that talk.
Because, I mean, like, okay, I remember, like, watching the Final Fantasy movie back in, like, 2001 and thinking, like, okay, this is crazy. Like, this is insane, the visuals that I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was cool, like, seeing them back then, and I still think those visuals hold up to a certain extent. And just from that aspect alone, because the story was meh,
I don't know, I wasn't too captivated by what was going on with the story, but visually it was keeping me engaged. You could say that just if that's the driving force of why they made this Lion King, remake.
Yeah.
I get it. But I feel like everybody has that visual component now to their films. It's not anything that's like...
Yeah, it doesn't stand out.
Yeah, the thing that's standing out.
Well, that's the thing. The visual fidelity and pristine photorealism or whatever, or like I was saying, craft, is not what sets something apart. And actually kind of drawing comparisons to video games. If you go back to, PlayStation 1 era games, PlayStation 2 era games... Those graphics look
they're terrible.
They're barely playable.
Blocky.
It's because at the time, whoa, look how realistic this malformed abomination is. But the stuff that holds up is the stuff that has good art, a good aesthetic, right? So if you go back and watch, play Nintendo 64 Zelda, it's harder to get into that. But if you go back and play cel-shaded or 16-bit Zelda, or Parappa the Rapper, right? It's because that has an art style. It's not just the craft or fidelity or whatever. It's also, an actual vision. Believe. They're trying to say something, and you gotta believe.
And then that's my biggest issue. Yeah. It's not so much that they didn't focus on the story and they focused too much on the technology. Yeah. It's a great story. It's just that, and the technology's fantastic. They're both good. They don't belong together is my problem. It's that this style of animation, CG, the technical craft doesn't fit with what makes Lion King a good story. And for me, that's the magical aspect and just the kind of... It doesn't... The original does because they can change the animation style. They can make things more colorful. When I Can't Wait to Be King starts, the literal color palette changes on the song.
And the thing is, imagine, I was thinking of Zootopia. Imagine if Zootopia was photorealistic animals. That movie would be... And God, it would be awful. If
you want to do if you want to do a Disney musical that has photorealism, nature documentary style, write a new story that fits with that style. Right. Don't use Lion King. That's not fair to Lion King.
Or if you're gonna do Lion King, then go
crazy.
Then go bold with it. Go bold with it and do something different with the story. Basically, it's Hamlet. Mm-hmm. So. Maybe tell a different version or tell a more direct version of Hamlet. Or
tell the same story and do a crazy art style. It can still be photorealistic.
It just
do a crazy CG, really hyper-stylized, colorful worlds. Why not? It's just that they don't work together. As it is, they don't work together for me.
I think part of, kind of with any good endeavor, or at least bold endeavor, and to an extent good art, there has to be, I feel, at some level... there should be something at stake, right? And that sounds probably a little presumptuous and maybe pretentious, but I do think there's a truth to that, right?
Sure.
If you're really trying to say something, if you're really trying to make something that's important, there's something that's at stake there. And to me, there was nothing at stake with this film.
Right. I agree.
Except money.
Right.
And that's...
Right.
Yeah. Well... Just one final question for this, and I think this question maybe sums up my feelings for a lot of these remakes, and this especially. Would you ever watch this film over the animated film?
Nope.
I wouldn't.
Nope,
right?
Never.
No, I mean, I think whoever said it. Oh, Matt, you said about showing your kids. I would not show this to my kids as kids. They would if this was their identity or perception of what the Lion King was, I don't think they would ever... They'd be bored by it. I think they'd be like,
but I think that's kind of a good question to ask for all these remakes, right?
Yeah.
If you ask yourself, even if it's a remake you don't love, there may be some value if you would go, well, I could see myself maybe watching this over in these circumstances, like the Aladdin remake. I wasn't the biggest fan of that, and about 90% of the time, I would always watch the animated. But maybe one day I felt... but with Lion King, I could never see myself watching the live action.
Is that
you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Is that simply because of the execution, or just the fact that they just decided we're going to take this animated film and convert it into a live action film? There's no reason to go to the live action.
No, it's the execute. I would like to believe that if it did have some merit, I would find some value in that and want to go back to it at some point.
Well, it's
I'm not saying that one is always going to be better than the other. I'm just saying that if something has value, you would at least want to at least understand okay, the original animated doesn't have this aspect, and so if I wanted this little aspect of it, I'm going to watch the live action this one time.
I'll be honest,
the Jungle Book and Aladdin. I could maybe see that with the live action.
I want to answer your
but
question.
not with this.
There's-
not
I
with
answered your
Beauty and the
question.
Beast. Yeah.
I definitely would for Jungle Book. And I
Yeah,
have
me too.
for
Me too.
Aladdin because I made the decision to go watch Aladdin a second time in theaters. I could have just stayed home and watched my Aladdin DVD, but I made the decision to go watch the live action one again. So the answer is sometimes for Aladdin, but definitely for Jungle Book. So
Yeah, and not for Lion King.
Never for Lion
but
King.
even
Never,
so
ever.
much for Mary Poppins. Like, would you ever watch the new Mary Poppins over the
Nope.
original?
would not.
Yeah, I don't know if I could say I would
would
either.
not.
I can say this.
And I didn't dislike it, but
I would be vastly more interested in flipping the format to where you take live action films, and the example I'd use is like Harry Potter. If they were to make the Harry Potter universe into an animated format, I would be vastly more interested.
Actually,
because
it's funny. Like, yeah,
I'm on board
there's
for
so
that.
much more you can do animated than you can live
I
action.
want to see that happen. Because
well, I think animation is you're forced to have a vision.
Exactly.
If you're animating something,
Yeah.
you are forced to have
that's
a
a
vision.
good point. That's a great point.
And that's why I'd want to see animated, like a live action film being converted into animated, not just Harry Potter, but there's other examples you can use.
That's actually that's a good concept. Would be more excited for those types of
And,
things.
and you're talking like a hand drawn.
Yeah, like Game of
almost
Thrones.
like
Imagine like a Song of Ice and Fire, the universe,
Mhm.
hand drawn animation, something like that. You know, I mean, like,
Yeah.
be very cool.
And that's true for even stuff that I love. Like, I love Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and stuff, but I would totally be down for a visually animated, newly realized version of that. Because, I don't know, that appeals to me. I do think that, it would be slightly hypocritical if I wasn't aware of some of the same issues, right? If they're just
Sure.
purely doing it for, like, oh, well, we got to tap into this IP that we know people like. So, I'm not so naive to think that there's not that element too, but that, at least in concept, that idea is somewhat exciting to me. So.
I mean, I guess it's just animation does it just not appeal to the masses in the same way? Is that why they don't do it?
Well, I don't know if it doesn't appeal, but it has a different connotation. It has, a different implied, like, I don't know.
It's not taking it seriously.
Audience?
Yeah,
it's
There's a stigma.
stupid.
Yeah.
There's a stigma.
There's a stigma. That's it. Stigma's associated with it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other final thoughts on Lion King from anyone?
Poo poo.
I will. Okay, just to end it on slight positive, a few things I liked about
I'll
it.
throw some in
I
too,
did
yeah.
think, I did think that some of the performances, purely on a voice acting level, I got to give him credit because I did like John Oliver. I did like Timon and Pumbaa. Like,
Yeah.
I actually didn't, like, some of the jokes were very cynical and I didn't laugh, but I actually did laugh a fair bit at some of the Timon and Pumbaa stuff. Even some of the other performances were fine. And I'm trying to think of what else I kind of liked about this, but I can't think of anything right now. What did you like, Matt?
I was
going to
say Billy Eichner, John Oliver, Seth Rogen, liked the performances. I actually would have liked more of it. Nerdy Broadway thing, but in the original Lion King, at the end of Can't Wait to Be King, Simba ends the song on the last note. In the Broadway show, Simba sings the last note, and then Nala outdoes him with a higher note that she hits. They took that version of the song from the Broadway show and not the original animated. So there were little tiny little things they did take from the Broadway show that were so small that if you're not super hyper aware of the show, you won't pick up. But a couple things like that.
That's pretty cool that you were
And
able to figure that out.
yeah, just really tiny small things. But I liked the little bit of hot pre-prepared that we got, but it also made me wish that we got the rest of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I agree.
Definitely.
Did you like when it was over?
I liked it when it was over. Yeah.
Yes.
The whole movie?
Yeah, right.
And it rolled the credits, and it was like DJ Khaled. Just kidding, that didn't happen. But I'm always anticipating it.
Now I am.
Is there anything
Is there an
that
end
we
credit
haven't
scene?
mentioned that you liked? Brian?
After credit,
Uh,
not really after credits, but they did "He Lives in You" from the Broadway show, but they did it in Swahili, and they did it during the credits.
What?
And
Was that
That
what
was that's
I
my
remember
favorite
that.
song from the stage show, and they did a Swahili cover of it for the credits. I wish that had been in the movie. I wish Donald Glover had sang it, but whatever.
yeah, that would have been cool. What did I like? I thought the hyenas. We didn't even talk about the hyenas. Were no, I didn't like them at all. Actually, never mind.
I didn't like how little dialogue and screen time that what's his name? The Eric Andre got. I wish Eric Andre had anything to do in this movie. I got so excited when they announced he was going to be in it, but he had nothing to do at all.
Also, there was that one moment that I think just completely, like, it was right after the big. There was very little emotional resonance with me, but the closest it got was right when Mufasa dies and Scar sends Simba off. I'm like, okay, this is kind of approaching something emotional. But then, right when it's supposed to be at its lowest, and you're supposed, the moment to contemplate and kind of and like, oh, this. They have the hyena joke where he's like, "Oh, you're standing too close to me, bro," or whatever.
Right, and it's not like, funny at all.
It's not funny, and just completely ruins the moment.
Yeah.
Like, well,
although, actually, Sean, so I'm glad you brought that up because it did remind me. Not a little bit before that moment, I was like, "Oh man, this is where Mufasa's gonna die. This is gonna be like rough." And I think it's because it is that animation, and he now has like perceived physical mass.
Yeah.
That there is a perceived like loss of matter, like you know what I mean, like his matter will
he actually die, like it's a thing.
Yeah, like more so than the cartoon.
It makes sense, but it is hilarious. What I'll say about that scene is that when Mufasa died, the little 2 or 3 year old toddler next to me started clapping, and then and then after Simba ran away, he turned to his mom and said, "That means the movie's over, right? Can we go home now?"
That really happened?
No.
Yes.
And then James Earl Jones was sitting next to him. He's like, "Hey, I'm not dead yet. I know everyone thinks I am, but not yet."
And then Disney live action remakes are turning children into sociopaths. That kid's going to grow up because they want Mufasa to die and the movie to end.
Oh man!
Way to go, bad. Live action remakes. All right, well, that's Lion King discussion as well as Hobbs and Shaw discussion and Comicon discussion stuff. And Broadway musical discussion and
metal detecting.
Man, everything came full circle.
Yeah,
it was only 2 hours.
Past 2 hours, so I should wrap it up. Unless Sean, you were going to say something.
Bring us on home.
Okay, this has been episode 43 of After the Credits, a YumChunks podcast. Whatever you're listening to us on, if you have a preferred outlet for podcasting, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Castro, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and the original YumChunks YouTube channel. If you'd like to reach the show for any reason, you can leave a comment on the YumChunks YouTube channel, or you can send us an email at yumchunks@gmail.com. If you want to share your opinion or disagree with any of ours, go ahead and do that, and we'll read your comment or email live on the show. And that's how it goes, right? That's the business, right?
That's the business.
That's a lot of stuff. Stay tuned for.
We'll probably take
some more episodes coming soon. We won't be another month between our next episode. Hopefully, we might do an episode on The Boys because lots of us have watched that. Chris has watched that as well, so we need to get Chris back in here at some point. Maybe some Stranger Things, and well, we're about entering September, and that's kind of the doldrums for movies too. So maybe we'll take this chance to do some shows and other,
odds and ends.
Yes. But thanks for listening in. And hey, Vince, give him some words of wisdom.
Hey, everybody. When you're metal detecting, don't go for those low signals. Go for the high ones, if you know what I'm saying.
That's a good message just in general. I understand. I get it.
Go for the high signal. Oh, I just can't wait for this to be over.
Wait, was that? Did you just get a clip of Donald Glover and paste it into our video?
Yeah,
pasted it.
Yes, I did.
We have caused so many car accidents of forcing people to fall asleep as they're driving to work from our podcast.
Imagine all the people that thought, "Man, I'm going to use this podcast to keep me awake." Little did they know, put them right to sleep.
Another accident on the 405. Do that after the credits.
We can't do another 2-hour episode again. Too many people died last time. All right, that's enough. Let's get out of here.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a great
week.
Yes. Okay, good.
This has been
After the Credits,
a YumChunks podcast.